It's absolutely overwhelmingly true the species exists. When I take people out, I show them Bigfoot. We're up-leveling it, we're moving forward. There's more footage that I can get. I mean, I can't shoot one and bring one back. That's the problem, is there's really, this species is so exceptional that as a tracker, I mean, myself personally, there's literally nobody in the world that has Pacific Northwest boots on the ground hours tracking that I have. I have literally over 2,000 days of wilderness backcountry experience. I'm at an extreme elite level and growing. Every year I do over 100 more days of wilderness backcountry expeditions with people and with myself. And these beings completely outdo me. They're the greatest trackers that have ever lived. And they have a special ability that this is not really even paranormal anymore. If I'd have talked about this 20 years ago, telepathy, people would be all, you're off your rocker. Well, there's a problem now. Every university in the world accepts and acknowledges that telepathy is absolutely real. Quantum physics is coming out like crazy with all the realities, precognition, telekinesis, and telepathy all being combined. And what my research shows, and let me just say this at least, is they're completely highly telepathic. Now your answer is right there. With a telepathic species that can feel your presence, how in the hell are you going to sneak up on them? And the answer is you can't. They can remote view, they can remote speak, they're complete empaths, and you can't verse a species like that.
What do you think Bigfoot is? I mean, you don't subscribe to the fact that it's like an ape because it's higher intelligence.
Right.
So where do you fall in what you believe it is?
Well, on that side, I go back, if you go back to a lot of Bible verse, I don't know how not to bring religion into
I'm
it.
biblical, sir.
Hey, there you go.
Listen, I told these guys, I said, I'll come to the event, but I can't go Sunday. I got church.
Right. Good man. A lot tied into giants. And, you know, if it's, right.
So I heard one of my favorite theories that I thought was interesting was someone told me it was descendants of Esau, because he was known as hairy and red and hairy, and the Nephilim.
Yeah.
So that was a theory. A lot of people tie in like when God cursed Nebuchadnezzar and said, you want to step outside of my will? Here's 7 years. You're gonna eat like your nails are gonna grow long. You grow hair.
Right.
So that correlates a lot to Bigfoot.
Right. With nothing, no tools, just the wilderness.
Yeah.
And I've heard the sons of Cain. I've heard, you know, the Nephilim, the fallen angels, and it could give that supernatural aspect to them of how they're just there and they're gone, or how a lot of experiences people have become sick.
Yep.
Nauseous. I've had that a couple times where I felt, they call it the dread. We got the dread.
Yep.
And people now call it being zapped, where you just all of a sudden I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Your sixth sense, I think it is what's kicking in.
You study things that are both paranormal and then things that are also both, these cryptoids. Right. So I think I want to hear kind of your aspect on, what you've heard of the woo, what you think is could be credible with it, what you think is kind of a hoax with it, and just kind of dive into the aspect of where does Bigfoot fit in the paranormal world as well as the cryptid world.
Well, that's a great question. As you said, I've been steeped deep into paranormal and high strangeness for the majority of my life. And the thing that I can tell you is that when you start hearing people's accounts, people's stories of encounters with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, there are a number of things that some people say that they experience that tends to be on the supernatural side of things. But what's really interesting to me is that similar things happen in paranormal investigations. So, and I guess what I'll say about this is there's a researcher. He's been in the field for over 50 years. I think Ron Moorhead is who I'm talking about, and he recorded the Sierra Sounds, which is a significant piece of audio evidence that has been looked at and analyzed and taken apart. So, you know, Ron, during the time that they were in the Sierras and recording these encounters, or these vocalizations that took place during their encounters, they were experiencing orbs and bars of light. Actually, one, he described it as almost looking like something that would be the blade of a lightsaber without the hilt, just kind of floating through the trees, almost navigating its way through the trees so as not to hit anything, as if it was under intelligent control. And Ron is he is an extremely recognizable name in this research. I've had the pleasure of talking with him multiple times, and he's not crazy.
Right.
You know, so here's the thing, you know, it's like when we go into a paranormal location, when we go into a house that's reputedly haunted, one of the things that we tend to get is knocking. You know, we hear knocks on the wall or knocks on from somewhere. We assume it's a wall.
Yeah.
What do people report when they're in the woods and they have a Bigfoot encounter? They hear wood knocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very popular. It's in a lot of people's experiences. What if that knock? Because here's the other thing. Granted, we don't have many pictures of Bigfoot. We have a few that I think are real and legitimate, but there's a bunch of stuff that's not. But we don't have any pictures of a Bigfoot with a huge club in its hand or a big tree limb in its hand, walking up to a tree and hitting the tree to make the knock sound, right?
Right.
There's obviously nothing in the haunted house. I don't think there's a ghost that's standing there with a ghost twig or limb hitting the wall to make that knock sound.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that lead me to believe? Maybe that sound is a peripheral effect of them coming into our perception. There's a vocal modality to these creatures that they're able to, their vocal range can go way higher than what the human vocal range is capable of doing. And it's been shown that they can go way lower than what the human range can. So if that's a component to them, if their range of vocal capabilities is much wider than ours, perhaps their eyesight, you know, we have a small window that we can see. We can't see ultraviolet or infrared light. You know, there's a number of different frequencies that we can't see in. Maybe they can't. As far as you know, like people talk about these things cloaking, and you know that sounds absolutely ludicrous. But if something can change the frequency of itself, the vibration of itself, maybe enough that it changes what we are perceiving, you know, maybe they are actually cloaking like the Predator. But to me, I think, you know, because of what we know in our real natural science and what has been proven as far as, you know, vibration and frequency, what if they're able to change their vibration? You know, maybe they're not just cloaking like what people assume the Predator does. But what if they're able to affect through frequency, through a vocal frequency? What if they're able to change how our vision perceives them?
One theory that I've heard and it keeps repeating is that, like you said, you called it the dread. What are your thoughts on infrasound? Like tigers will do it to stun their or disorient their prey, and there's a lot of theory that Bigfoots will actually do the same thing.
Absolutely. I think they absolutely use that. either hunting, disorient an animal, get it queasy and get it. I've heard stories from hunters that have said, I feel like I'm being watched. Or people hiking, just doing stuff in the woods where their sixth sense kicks in. It's like, a lot of hunters have said they're up in their deer stand sitting all day and something's watching me. And then they look around and finally see something. But there's been so many, there's another big reason I give to proof too, is hunters that give up their hunting, and people that have lived and loved the outdoors their whole life just give it up.
Well, that's the thing. A guy in a tree stand, I know when I go hunting, if I'm in a tree stand, I get a shotgun or a rifle, I'm invincible. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the most dangerous thing in the woods.
Right.
So when you hear these stories of being scared and intimidated and flushed out of the woods when you're heavily armed and you're prepared to kill something, because that's why you go into the woods, I find it intriguing that it's so hard of an impactful moment that these guys are just running.
More and more people claim sightings. There's a lot of bogus sightings. There's a lot of people that you got to weed through. So I grew up hunting, and when you go in the woods hunting for an animal, you can convince yourself that you see that animal.
Right.
I'll sit there and I'll look at a tree stump for 15 minutes. I'm like, is it a deer? Well, it hasn't moved. So do you think a lot of these sightings that people just are casually reporting could be instances where they've convinced themselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They call it, I've heard it, Bigfoot on the brain.
Yeah.
You're going out looking for that particular, and it's a stump. Or
because I always joke with Zach when we're driving to these events, I always say, look, I could see Bigfoot if I really wanted to. Like, oh, that shadow, or oh.
Right.
So how do you deal with when people talk to you about their experiences? How do you kind of deal through that and look at the layers and like, all right, this seems a little off, or how do you kind of...
I kind of asked them about it for details, what we're doing.
Yeah.
What are the surroundings? Is there any other reports around there? You know, did it move? Did it, you know, a lot of times if you get one that said, and it just stood, finally I left. Well, if you never saw it move, although there's a lot of reports where they just freeze and they will just outweight you. Where you're like, what is it? What is it? You're trying to zoom in on it. And by the time if they see you pulling something out of your bag then they're just gone.
Yeah. Bob Gimlin has been interviewed about Sasquatch and his video, I can't even tell you how many times. You know what happened when Todd Standing interviewed him? I asked him like 4 or 5 questions nobody has ever asked him before. Do you know why? Because I've filmed the Sasquatch and I know what it's like. First question I asked him, remember, he's been interviewed hundreds of times by experts all over the world. I go, so when you saw the footage, did anything shock you? He went, yes. Yes, I was shocked by this one thing. I went, shh, and I wrote it down. I wrote down size on a piece of paper. And he said, I actually didn't believe that was the footage at first. I go, really? And why is that? Because what I saw in real life was absolutely enormous and huge and massive and hulking and muscular. And when I saw the picture, it was nothing. I couldn't believe that was the footage that we shot. It didn't look like the same thing. And I pop up my paper and I go, size. That's exactly what I did. My video 3, which is a Sasquatch running up the side of the hill, that is my favorite. Like I have clearer, better pieces of footage than that are pretty outstanding. The head on the Sasquatch is enormous, and I could, you know, there are facial movements in video 8 where his cheeks are moving and his nostrils are flaring. He's blinking really fast. It's because he's looking at me and he's pissed off, right? He's mad. He wants to come kick my ass because I broke some rules. But in video 3, I'm not debating this. It's a fact. That Sasquatch is over 9 feet tall and over 850 pounds. He's running faster than the fastest man in the world can move. These are facts. I'm not disputing them. They've been proven scientifically. So somehow I got a 9 foot tall actor, there's no such thing, to run up a hill faster than the fastest man can. I can't make that happen. How does that work? Do you know, one of my expeditioners and my colleagues sent me the Harry Potter video. Do you know Hagrid is supposed to be 8'5" and they couldn't do it? This is Harry Potter. This is Warner Brothers with millions of dollars. And all you had to do was walk around. You ever seen Hagrid walk? It's kind of it got better as the years went on because they spent millions and millions of dollars more. The first year, he came back at 7'8" was the best they can do. But you know what Todd Standing did all by himself? Without a crew, without millions of dollars, I got a 9 foot tall prosthetic and bionic to run. It's just not possible, guys. There's never been a 9-foot tall human being. And if there was, he couldn't run that fast. And he wouldn't have been, and he's not going to be muscular built out like that. Like that footage it's done. There's no doubt Sasquatch exists. And that's why I used that footage for species protection. I was very passionate about it. And that footage has never been debunked in any way, shape, or form, other than people analyze it and go, shut the front door. I usually have people analyze it, like the first kineticist that analyzed it. He goes, oh, you know, I'll do that man in the suit right up the hill. He comes back and he goes, Bigfoot's real. I go, whoa, what do you know? Oh, a human being couldn't run that fast. And he didn't even know it was 9 feet tall. That was later proven, right? And Bob Gimlin has really stood up for me. And Bob Gimlin has looked at my footage, a man who's seen Sasquatch in real life, for sure. And he'll tell you that Todd Standing's legit, Todd Standing's real. He saw my documentary. It was only 40 minutes long in the beginning when I was just editing it, but he saw all the footage. And he looked at me and said, Todd, I never thought in my lifetime I would see that. And he congratulated me and gave me a nice hug. Like, Bob Gimlin is a freaking hero. That man is honest to the core. I don't really know many people like that I've ever met in my life. Like John Bitternagel, Jeff Meldrum, honest man. Like, we are so fortunate. I don't know where these heroes came from, but in the world of Sasquatch and the discovery of this species, we forever owe those men a debt of gratitude. People ask me about, you talk about the haters and the negative. You know, I've never met so many human beings of integrity and honesty and just outstanding representations of human beings as I have doing Sasquatch research. Survivor Man's in it now. I mean, the man is absolutely amazing, makes the world a better place every single day. John Bitternagel, I mean, they just broke the mold when they made that guy. Bob Gimlin was persecuted his life, the stuff that he went through back in the 70s and 80s, where people called him a liar and a hoaxer and the crap that he went through, and always told the truth. And if you ask the man, he just simply says, my parents always taught me to be honest and tell the truth, and I always will. And everything about that man is just the ring of truth. Those other 4 questions that I asked him, I mean, after that first one, I knew he saw Sasquatch. I knew it. Because that's the first, I was so mad. I was literally, listen to this, I'm looking at my footage of the Sasquatch running up the hill. I'm like, that can't be the one. I must have filmed it twice. Because it was so big. It's huge. And you look at the film and you go, what is that? That little peon's not, that's not what I filmed. And I was looking through the viewfinder at it, but I was also looking up. And that look up obscures your look down, if that makes sense. You know how big it is, so you expect it showing up there, but you put it on a TV and it's not that. And that's exactly what Bob Gimlin said to me. And I remember him just shaking his head going, you know, no one's ever asked me these questions. Like, nothing like it. And there's a reason for that. Because when you're boots on the ground and you're neck deep in this, you're not an armchair quarterback like Phil Poling and the other weasel, right? I'm out there, boots on the ground, getting it done. And you listen to me. You want to see Sasquatch? And I'm talking to anybody out there, including you who's interviewing me. Don't take my word for it. Come out with me, and I will show you Sasquatch.
Oh, I want
That's what I do.
Oh, I want to, Todd.
If it was made known that there is a 7 to 9, to some accounts 10 or 11 foot tall humanoid showing advanced intelligence, more intelligence than just a plain animal.
Yep.
And that there was the possibility, because this number gets thrown around a lot, the possibility of being anywhere from 150 to 300 of these beings in any one state at any one time. That seems to be a fairly accepted population.
Yep.
Some less, some places, some more, some places, but anywhere from 150 to 300 per state. Would you go camping if you knew that there was something that was not bound by our laws, was not necessarily bound by our morality, and for all intents and purposes was a wild man? Would you go camping in an area that you knew that existed?
Most likely not.
Smart guy. I probably wouldn't either. If these things were found to be real and proven, and we had a body on the slab and science was like, yep, these things exist, what do you think happens to the logging industry? If they did what they did for a spotted owl, what are they going to do to something that would most likely be a distant relative to us?
So going
even if it's only an ape, even if it is only an ape, they're going to have to set aside land for it. You know, I mean, the implications go so far beyond, well, why aren't they showing us body? Yeah.
What so let me ask you this then. If you think, you said that you would say is more of a humanoid,
my belief, yeah.
Your belief, yep. So would you think, let me ask you this then. We know humans, humans crave community. Do you believe Bigfoot is the same? Do you think Bigfoot, they travel in groups, or are they?
It's been theorized and by researchers who spend a lot of time out in the field that they move in. Most people refer to them as clans, yeah, and family units. So yeah,
okay. And then
I don't know that there's much information out there as far as, like, do multiple clans kind of get together for a Bigfoot commune, right? Or if they stay on, you know, to their selves. There's some theories that say that once a juvenile male reaches, you know, a young adulthood, some maturity, that they're kind of forced out and made to go find the next group where they can pick a mate. And it's all theories and it's all conjecture. You know, it's all, a lot of people spend a lot of time in this, and that's not to say that they're just coming up with these ideas willy-nilly. I think there's a lot of thought put into it, and you know, you have primatologists and other animal science type people that are, you know, working on this as well. Probably not in the public eye because, you know, if you're a professor someplace, you know, you go out on a limb with this, and you know, you might lose your tenure, or you know, but there are people that are working on this.
Every year I try new things. Like I'm busting my ass. I put everything in this. This discovery matters to me, to my heart and soul. I risk my life every expedition. You know, I go out there with grizzly bears, mountain lions, out in the worst terrain. We go backcountry in places.
You were featured on an episode of Search and Rescue too.
Right, I went missing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I did a little bit of a deep dive this morning. So yeah, but continue. Yeah,
we're putting up cameras this year. They're going to be outstanding. So the Sasquatch come around and shake our trailers, look in the windows. And for me, so the trailers are out in the wilderness, but you know, 20 yards around my trailers, that's not Sasquatch. That's man's land. That's where we walk. We have air conditioners and trucks and equipment all over the place. So I don't see why so I'm putting up cameras now. They've lifted trailers up, banged on the doors, you know, so there are cameras going up. And what's exciting for everybody to know is there's going to be 24 hours, 7 days a week surveillance of the hottest research area on Earth. I'm going to put some stuff out to kind of antagonize them. I know they don't like those tiki torches. I'm going to put out some tiki torches, and if they wreck them, next time they wreck them, it's going to be on film, and there's not going to be any debate. So will it damage it? Will they not want to come around the cameras? Will they recognize it? Maybe, but I'm going to give it a try. So we're putting up those cameras. We already had, like, what's been the problem right now is the electrical, they call them generators, but they're just electrical cells that absorb sunlight through the solar panels, and then they charge up. So I've had trouble keeping the power up in the cameras and the internet because it's thank you, Elon Musk. His Starlink is out there in the hella middle of nowhere. It works great. But we had Sasquatch come around where I would already have footage. Like a Sasquatch came up and pulled the freaking wire out of the camera as he walked right up to it. But the camera wasn't operating because the power had gone dead. So, and another incident that we had. So, and at the very least, we're going to get new audios, And then, you know, it'll be interesting, even if they're a layer back in the bush where the cameras can't quite pick them up, you're going to see what Todd Standing does when a Sasquatch comes around, like my expeditioners have seen. Because I'm telling you, this is my thing, man. When there's a Sasquatch out there and people are like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're in real wilderness backcountry, Todd Standing gets his ass out of the trailer when there's a Sasquatch there, and I go have a little dance with him. I'll do whatever it takes. I walk up to him, I talk nicely, I'll get down on one knee, I'll move slowly towards him. Like, I've been through the gauntlet, guys. I've seen the toughest men and amazing women come out and be around a Sasquatch and shy away and back off. I was there. I did that. But I've been doing this for 20 years now. And when a Sasquatch comes around, man, I will put an apple up and put my head down and say, you know, this is a gift from me to you. Please take it. That's my goal now. They take apples from me quite regularly. They've come close. In my documentary, they were 15 yards away when they were taking apples from me. I'd like to close that distance to 1 yard and put my arm out and have a Sasquatch walk up. I literally walk around with an apple in my pocket now, waiting for that moment. We had it happen already once this year. I got a Sasquatch close. He just walked away when I got down and put that apple up. But that's the goal this year. It's just a personal thing of mine. I want to move forward, and I feel I could manage that. They're getting that close, and then next year it goes up from there. The discovery is moving forward. These cameras will be a huge asset to me. Even thinking, I hear them outside, I can actually pull out my phone and I can operate the cameras. I can pan them and turn them, right? Because they're not pointing 360 degrees. You have to turn them. So I can pan around and look out there, go, oh, it's a bear. And I'm just going to film the bear. Now I don't have to go out there and get possibly killed. It's not a Bigfoot. It's a bear. There's a freaking bear out there that chews on my jerry can full of gas. What? It's a grizzly.
Bears will eat anything.
Yeah, but no, he bites the jerry can that's full of gas, and then there's gas all over him. He must be getting gas. You ever had gas in your mouth? This is the third time this stupid bear has done that. This is a big grizzly bear. He doesn't mess with my trailers, but he eats the jerry can full of gas.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs me like $100 now for a jerry can and its gas. But I want to film that. And he plays with it. You see the jerry cans spilled all over the place. He must be rolling in it. Oh, look at the gas. Don't freaking smoke around this bear. Boof. Right? Yeah. But there'll be other things like that we will see. We'll see grizzlies and mountain lions. I'm excited for the wolf pack to come through. I'm a big fan of the wolves. They're absolutely an amazing species. They're big timber wolves out there, so they're gorgeous. The pack usually consists of, at least, there's 10 hunters at least, right? So they got to kill like 2 deer a day, an elk every 2 days, right? So they come through an area, they clean it up real fast. All the weak deer and elk are gone in a week, and they're peace out. When they come through my base camp, it's all business. They're looking for food, no food on their way. No interest in people. You're allowed to, on my expeditions, if you film a mountain lion or a bear, I'm going to have words with you because they're a legitimate, dangerous species. And if we don't get our ass out there safely, there could be a death on our part or theirs. Right. When it comes to wolves, film, when it comes to moose at the right time of year, film them, elk, Wolverines, let's give it a try. But, and Sasquatch. If you want to pull out your camera and film a Sasquatch, I'm going to tell you, as I tell people though, the majority of people that have tried to film the Sasquatch out there, none of them even got close to what my footage is. And what usually happens is by the time they turn their camera on and hit record and push it up, the sighting's over. So they literally see the Sasquatch and then they go work their camera, put it up, and then the Sasquatch is gone. Yeah. So I usually recommend that people don't do that, but it's entirely up to them, right? And I have had Sasquatch footage out on expedition. It doesn't even come close to mine. It makes people really understand the level that I was able to get to. Probably my favorite hoax theory of mine, or someone saying that I hoaxed, was they proved beyond any reasonable doubt that I was 40 yards away from Jake in video 5. And they were right. I don't know why they had to go do this cameraman and this big chubby expert. They're laughing about me and laughing. And at the end of it, the proof is he was 40 yards. Fake. And then I go, you didn't have to do that. I told you I was 40 yards away. Well, you're just admitting you're a hoaxer. No, I'm admitting I was 40 yards away. Was I have to? Well, then they go, because nobody could get within 40 yards of a Sasquatch. And I go, I didn't see that in the notes of Sasquatch that you can't get 40 yards away from them. Because it did. So have a nice day, right? Yeah. So you gotta really, and proof comes out, Todd Standing's been hoaxing, and then if you read the damn story, something preposterous at the end. Well, we found out his sister is a special effects makeup artist. What? Do you have a sister?
I got 4.
Okay. pick your youngest sister, okay? Do you know her well?
I know her very well.
You love her?
I do.
Okay, I'm going to prove to you that you're a hoaxer. Your sister is a special effects makeup artist. Are you ready? She's a special effects makeup artist. What do you say to that?
No, she's not.
Yes, she is. That's the evidence. She's not.
She sells rental cars, I promise.
No, she doesn't. She's a special effects makeup artist. Aha, you're a hoaxer. I mean, that's how stupid it is. When Jeff Meldrum went and did a show with me and started working with me, he spent months talking to everybody. I want to see proof that Todd Standing's a hoaxer. And one horse manure story after another. Well, I've already proved that I want to talk about. Jeff goes, you're going to have to tell me because I'm going to work with you. Oh, well, we proved that his dad dated a woman who owned a fabric store. We got him. What? That's what you've been talking about all this time? Yeah, we proved he was a hoaxer. We proved that. Then I go to my dad. I go, Dad, did you date a woman? He goes, that owned a fabric store? He goes, no. But something weird happened to me. When I went into Fanny's Fabrics to buy purple curtains with Karen, some dude took my picture. At Fanny's Fabrics, so my dad walks into Fanny's Fabrics with his girlfriend, and now I'm a proven hoaxer? Do you even listen to yourself? And that's the polling people, right? That's these meatheads that have these preposterous ideas. And it blows my mind, the stuff that's going on. Apparently, my sister actually lives in Alabama, and she did a radio show like yours or a podcast where she's got an Alabama voice, and she's talking about how she'd done special effects makeup artists. Problem is, my sister is Canadian and talks like me, and didn't do this interview, and we're sitting there laughing, and it got 50,000 views. It gets more views than my Bigfoot videos do. Right? And we saw your sister, dude, she was on a freaking show admitting that she's a special effects makeup artist. I go, you mean the lady from Alabama that talk like this, y'all? That's not my sister. My sister can't even make that. Like, what the hell? So it's laughable, the things that people have to say. And again, you must understand what's going to happen. Joe Rogan talks about? He calls me the Canadian guy that's brainwashing people into believing Sasquatch is real. Joe Rogan has an affiliation with an MD that I took out, and that MD came out with a Green Beret who's retired, this incredible, amazing tracker dude, and I proved to them Bigfoot's real. They went home going, Sasquatch is real, right? The MD literally goes, well, either Sasquatch is real or Todd Standing snuck around and fooled my Green Beret expert tracker. This dude was impressive. Like, iron recognizes iron. That guy knew his tracking skills. I was impressed with him. He was very impressed with me. And on day 3, he came up to the MD and said, Sasquatch are real. And then we had them rock knocking, followed them around, and got within 40 yards of him. Like, it was amazing. This guy has an affiliation with Joe Rogan, and there are other people that Joe Rogan has an affiliation with that they told Joe, like, this dude's showing people Sasquatch are real, and Joe laughs it off. Well, I have something to say to you, Joe Rogan. Don't take my word for it. Come out with me, and I will show you a Sasquatch. And Tyler Oliveira is talking to me, and I got these 2 kids that are like these paranormal gurus on YouTube talking to me. This is going to break out. I'm never going to stop coming. You can't beat somebody who doesn't quit, and I'm not going anywhere, ever. I am a full-time Sasquatch researcher. You want to hate on me? I will never stop doing this. This is my job for the rest of my life. Not sorry. And I'm really good at it. And I did take Survivor Man out, and I have taken PhDs out. And you can't be first, but you can be next. And believe me, I've already won. I'm sitting here going, let's dance. Like, who's next? Who wants this? I'm the heavyweight champion of the world when it comes to Bigfoot. You know why? Because if I prove Bigfoot's real, and they are real, I win. And if anybody else in the whole world proves Bigfoot's real, because they are real, guess what happens? I win. They're going to go, whoa, they look just like his videos. And they make the tree breaks, and they walk like he does. They do structures just like he said. Wait a second. He was telling the truth the whole time. The truth is going to come out, guys. This is going to break.
I tend to have kind of cut my teeth and really paid attention to Native American oral tradition about these things. I mean, there are so many tribes throughout North America that all have a name for Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Yeah. So many of them have names for this, and it's in the hundreds. So, their placement throughout North America would indicate that there was a very slim chance that somebody over here in the Pacific Northwest would have ever run into somebody over on the East Coast. and been able to exchange oral stories about that. So that's always been something that I've followed. And
That's actually, so it's interesting you say that, because it's a little off topic, but that's always been one of the things that I've also used. Like, people, when we talk about dinosaurs, like, personally, like, I believe that dinosaurs were on Earth the same time as humans, which is up for debate. But that's one of the things I use is all culture, right? Chinese culture, South American culture, African culture have these depictions of like dragons or like large lizard. They wouldn't have, it wasn't like you hop on a plane, and go to China, or you hop on a plane and go to South America from Africa when these cave drawings are being drawn. So that's an interesting thing too, right? People have had, there's been cultural stories all throughout the world. And to your credit, like you said, this isn't where, people would have even been able to see these people realistically. It would have taken lifetimes to be able to make that happen. So, I guess just continue that, but I thought that was interesting, because that is one of the things that I think is really a strong argument, is that if it's so made up, then why thousands of years ago were people in different parts of the world talking about it? But continue. Yeah.
But, so within the Native American community, or the First Nations of North America, they speak about these things as being 1 foot in our excuse me, 1 foot in our world and 1 foot in another, whatever that is. So, does that mean that they are crossing dimensions? Science has pretty much said that, there is way more than 3 dimensions that we recognize.
Right.
So, being in the paranormal community is really, there's so many things that, there's been in this past couple of years, kind of since the pandemic, a spiritual awakening that a lot of people seem to be going through.
Yeah.
And within that, all you have to do is, pull up any video that you want to see on the recent past couple of years, the recent disclosure with the whistleblowers that are coming forward in the government talking about UAPs, UFOs. The word interdimensional comes up multiple times. And, so again, I don't know, do we believe our government? Some would say no. Others would say, oh yeah, let's believe them. They've kept the lid on this stuff for 70 some years. And now all of a sudden, now we're talking about it. So the idea of interdimensionality, that's a mind blower. That is something that, if all these things, if ghosts and spirits and Bigfoot and Mothman, or, all the other different things, if those are crossing into our existence, because there is a thinning of the veil between dimensions, are we actually seeing them because we're kind of crossing into their world because the veil is thin, or are they actually coming into our world and we're getting to perceive them because the veil is thin? Who knows?
Yeah.
There are literally no experts in this stuff. You have people in the field that rest firmly on the science of things and the science that we have to back this up. I think these things are more than just an animal. I think these things are closer related to us as mankind. I think they're more of a people.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then it makes sense to me that there would be some sort of effort made to revere those who have died,
right?
To not just let them sit out and rot and decay in the elements.
Right.
So, you know, are they burying them? Are they, you know, there's a lot of people that seem to think, and some would say that it follows, because if you put an overlay of known Bigfoot sightings across the map of the U.S., which you can find online.
Yep.
There's tons of them. One that I love to recommend, and I'll do it here, is the Bigfoot Mapping Project. Scott Tompkins has done a fantastic job with that. And you can download that app onto your phone, and you can have your own personal pocket buddy as far as, you know, looking up Bigfoot stuff. If you're going camping, you can literally go and see if there's ever been any Bigfoot sightings around where you're going camping. But if you do an overlay of known cave systems in North America, discovered, known, proven cave systems in North America, and you overlay them with Bigfoot sightings, there is a big correlation there.
So you're thinking Bigfoot's using the cave systems to travel around?
That's a theory.
That's why we don't see him?
It's a pretty strong theory that they use cave systems. There's another theory that they use undercuts along bodies of water to migrate, so that they're not so that sound is, you know, the sound of the water is deadening their movements and stuff like that. There's a lot of crazy sounding theories out there, but, you know, how crazy are they? You know,
well, I mean, how crazy can you get when you're talking about something that we haven't found a body of? We have some eyewitness accounts. We have the Patterson Gimlin film. Most other video accounts kind of since then, it's hard to gauge credibility. But yeah, so it is fair to think, you know, how if we don't have any real hardcore, super firm evidence of these things, then yeah, what is out of the realm of possibility with it, right?
Well, when you start really digging in and you start going deeper and deeper, you'll find stories. I don't know the names, but let's say it was from the late 1950s, early 1960s, where a body had been found that was hit by a tree and killed after a lightning storm. And supposedly the story goes that body was retrieved, and that body was studied, and that they found that there were scent glands within the forearms, and that there was some level of healing that continued on after the corpse was deceased. You know, there are stories out there that seem to have a legitimate component to them, that these things have been known to exist, and that there have been bodies retrieved. You know, there's some wild stories about I believe it was Mount St. Helens, where, you know, a bunch of bodies were found, and one live one was even captured and taken around in a military jeep to help find other ones that were still alive. I mean, there's some stories that are just like, okay, yeah, great story, but yeah, I don't think there's a lot of.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes back to like if these stories are true, then where's the body, right? Like,
right.
If Bigfoot is like Bigfoot's so polarizing, you're telling me that if multiple bodies are found and there were so many found up there, we don't have any of them, that there's none in any museums, that science hasn't got a hold of it, research haven't got a hold of it, I can't buy it.
The Patterson footage, guys. I mean, it's so the odds of that movie being fake, I can literally mathematically equate it to 1 in 100 centillion. Go look up a centillion. That's the odds of that film having been hoaxed. It is completely impossible for them to have hoaxed that film, because there are points in that film that Jeff Meldrum has labeled as counterintuitive at the time. And what he means is, you can see a mid-tarsal joint in the foot. In 1967, they didn't know that existed in the anatomy. Now we know gorillas and chimpanzees have it. We know that there were bipeds that have since become extinct that also elicited those behaviors. So these dudes from 1967 who have no scientific background picked up on something that was counterintuitive that would have proved at the time it wasn't real, and later on we discovered in science that, oh yeah, that actually does exist. You know what the odds of that are for a couple of cowboys to have picked that up? Like slim to none. They did that 6 times that we can prove in the film. So if you could say it's 1 in a million times 1 in a million, you do that 6 times, you get 1 in 100 centillion. It's impossible to have faked that. I'm so absolutely in the know. And besides that, one experience I ever had, the only experience I ever had where I saw a Sasquatch with an expeditioner and I actually stopped and rubbed my eyes, was in Nordegg, where I filmed some of Survivorman stuff. We saw this female Sasquatch. It looked like you pulled the Patterson female out of 1967 and plopped her up in Alberta, Canada. It was identical. She did the walk, the turn, the breasts. The only difference was she was going, she was making a sound because I was following her trackway and she was upset about it. But I was with the expeditioners I was with, I literally took my glasses off while I'm looking at a Sasquatch and rubbed my eyes and put my glasses back on. And my expeditioners are in complete agreement with me. That was the Patterson. It's not, right? It's a relative. This was filmed 40 years later. That female is probably long passed away. My point is, I've literally seen the identical female. And the tracks that were cast that day, shut the front door. They're dermal, they're moving organically. I am a tracker. If you go put on plastic feet or wood feet, you're not going to fool me for 2 seconds. Those feet are organic, moving brilliantly. Even with the mid-tarsal joint in the foot, we have an understanding of the foot stance, the 5 phases of the foot stance. And she literally, the foot will go flat and show no mid-tarsal joint when she's going downhill. But as she goes uphill a bit, the foot has to grab. And now what you get is a pressure ridge in there. To this day, right now, with all the animatronics we have, you couldn't do that. The feet are moving, bouncing, and grabbing organically. You couldn't, and if they could do that, it would cost millions of dollars to fake 6 footprints. Millions, it would take time and effort. This didn't just happen by accident, guys. And the anatomy of that foot and the way she walked in alignment, I mean, my God, we didn't know that stuff. And now I see it every freaking month in trackways, and people are seeing it all across North America. The species absolutely exists. The Patterson footage was legitimate from day one. And to this day, it's considered to be a hoax and fraudulent, and been all sorts of experts have looked at it.
Why do you think that is?
Because the reality of what's going on here is so beyond belief. It's so hard to understand. The most man-like primate is out there in the wilderness right now. There's tens of thousands of them, probably, at least 10,000 of them, if I'm being very minimalistic. And why haven't we discovered them? And the problem is, the answer is, they are literally a superior hominid to us. In fact, the DNA shows that. So when I got the DNA from Sasquatch, they were testing as human or hominid, and it was a little perplexing. So what was happening was, so if you get let's say gorilla, chimpanzee, and then human being. So everybody thought they were in here between human being and chimpanzee, but they're not. They're over here. So they're more further down the hominid. They're a bigger, stronger, more advanced hominid than we are. And that actually makes sense. If we took Survivorman out, threw him in the wilderness, and said, no technology and you're naked, probably be dead in 2 months. If I did that with a Sasquatch, I could come back in 2 years and he'd be fat and have his feet up. They're ultimate survivors. They're completely naked and surrounded by wilderness. And yet the DNA shows they have bred with human beings and produced viable offspring. By the old definition of a species, that's a same species. A horse breeds with a donkey and makes a mule. It's not a viable species. But that literally has happened 9 times in the Sasquatch's DNA. And we have DNA, ladies and gentlemen. Like I'm not having a debate about it. If you think that the problem is too, again, if I'm mixing human and chimpanzee DNA, it's in here, right? It's not. Sorry, it's up over here. How did I mix unknown hominid DNA with human DNA to get it? It doesn't make any sense. And everybody, the problem is too, everybody thinks I'm some kind of mad genius. I go to Oxford with this. They go, oh, no, we're not talking. You're mixing up DNA in a crock pot, you mad genius. You're this ultimate incredible hoaxer, and you're this incredible special effects makeup artist, and you have all these teams. Or I'm telling the truth. What do you think?